Hi everyone. I thought with our big assignment of the annotated bibliography and the research article summaries and critiques coming up that it might be helpful for me to just review a couple of kind of key points related to this assignment and also share some um, resources with you to make sure that you're tapping into as you look for information. And finally, I want to also help you navigate and read research effectively, because I know some of you are a little rusty at this skill set. So it'll come right back to you, but I think that this will be a useful, hopefully, valuable use of your time. All right, so let's go ahead and start by, everyone knows that the assignment is under the Assignments tab in Blackboard. So you definitely want to open this up. I've provided you with some resources on what an annotated bibliography looks like, and how you complete one well. In addition, you also have some information about how do you effectively critique articles. So I do want you to check out all of these resources that I gave you. I'm not going to go to those now because I know you can do that on your own time. And then I want to bring your attention to the annotated bibliography research summary and critiques template. So make sure you are using that format for the annotated bibliography. What I am most interested in you doing is to make sure that you are identifying the 10 resources that are all on a similar subject matter within your problem of practice area. So as we've been talking about on our, during virtual office hours and through our exchanges via email and through the assignment feedback feature, I want you to take your broader topics and find a narrower path to travel. Doesn't mean that this has to be what you're doing your dissertation on. It means that you're trying to get a better handle on what's happening with this problem in the field and what the research is saying about it. So there was two-prong approach here. First, you did the empathy interviews that gave you the lens into what the practitioners are saying, and then now you're getting an opportunity to see what the research is saying. So the entire point of this semester is to really explore your problem of practice before you determine a path for your dissertation. So that's really important because it's hard to identify a potential solution until you really know what the problem is. So I want you to have minds open about it. I know some of you have already identified solutions. You need to kind of let go of those for a little bit of time so that you can really get the value of engaging in this exploration process. Okay, so now that you know where all of these resources are, if you have any questions about the actual assignment, you can, of course, just reach out to me and I'm happy to answer those. But what I want to do now is I want to show you how to access some of the resources. So here is what I would suggest that you do first. Go to the library main page, so I'm right on the main page of the library. And I want to remind you, I know the librarians already showed this to you, but I want to remind you once again that they created a LibGuide or a subject guide. So if you click on this tab here, you'll scroll down and you'll see Community College Leadership. So I strongly recommend that you go here for a variety of reasons. First of all, they created several video tutorials. I also put some links in the announcements feature as well. So if you're feeling like you need to brush up on the database search techniques, this is really where you want to go for some of that guidance and support. But what I want to, and then as you know, there's databases, books, journals, research and writing aids, and also selected links. So for this annotated bibliography, I do want you to find 10 peer-reviewed journal articles. So it is going to be something that you're using the library databases for. However, I think it's very helpful for you to get some context related to your issues, and you will also want to tap into some of the research that's published, in an open access format on websites. So when you click on the selected links tab, what's going to happen is you're going to see that the librarians have already given you several really good, high, level, credible sources that would be of value to you in terms of the community college leadership topic. I'm going to go specifically over to the Community College Research Center because, as you know, they put out a lot of really valuable, high-quality research studies on community college. That's what all they do. That's their focus. And one of our advisory boards, Hannah Lair, who you met over the summer, is at the CCRC. And, obviously you're reading, redesigning community colleges that you read over the summer. Davis Jenkins is one of the key authors and leaders in this space. So when you get to this page, there's a variety of ways. They have the research tab, so you can go and you can look at the publications. That's a good approach. I sometimes just go to the search feature, and I'm going to just choose a topic, let's say developmental education. I typed this in already, so I can pop that in. When you click search, you're going to get, there's 332 results just on the CCRC page. But over here on the left, just like you can in the databases, you can narrow that a bit. So let's just say you don't want to see the presentations, but maybe you just want to see the journal articles. If you want to, you can even, look at a specific state or a certain year. For today's sake, I'm just going to use this as our, kind of way to narrow it down for us. So now you can see that there's a lot of really fascinating research articles here. I am going to suggest that you review these to begin kind of building your background knowledge. But I do want you to go into the databases to find the articles for the annotated bibliography. So I do want you to use this as a background knowledge builder and then move into the databases. So this isn't the only site. I mean, if we go back to the selected links, there are lots of different sites that you can go to here that are going to have some really high quality information, but I would strongly suggest that you start here. So for those of you, who are still not quite decided how to narrow that path down, this is a great strategy as well. Okay, so now let's assume that you, got some background knowledge and you have an idea of which path you want to travel down. Now I want to shift gears a moment and help you understand the best way to read research. So I'm going to I pulled up an article that I thought was relevant to some of you. So this article, I know many of you are interested in the Dev Ed. I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger so you can see it. Many of you are looking at Dev Ed. Some of you are looking at Dev Ed Math in particular. So I just chose this as a model for today's presentation, but I'm not going to go into detail about the content of it. I really want to instead talk to you about the process. One of the most important parts of the article, as you probably already know, is the abstract. So the abstract is an excellent summary of the article. Now, this particular abstract happens to have headers. They do not always have those headers within the abstract itself, but this makes it really easy for us to read and review and to understand. So you're going to be reading tons and tons of abstracts, and the abstract's going to, give you a flavor of what the study is about, whether you want to get the deeper dive understanding of that particular one, if it's related to what you're looking for or not. So you want to spend time in the abstract. Certainly don't skip it. You want to really look at this very carefully, and you want to try to be able to understand what was the primary research question and what was their primary finding from this abstract. And in fact, for this annotated bibliography process for the scholarly practitioner, the lens that I'm asking you to use is going to be very much focused on content and critically thinking about the nature of that content. Next semester, during Educational Research 1, we'll be doing a deeper dive into the methods of the research studies. So it's not that if you're familiar with statistics and research methods, by all means, I would love for you to do a deeper dive in terms of the critical analysis of what they come up with. But if you are feeling like that, you're not feeling confident enough yet in that space, that's okay for the purpose of this assignment. You can really focus on some of the content, and they need to spell out the key findings, in the abstract and also other elements. So, this is what most professionals rely on as their primary go-to element of the article. After you read the abstract, then you want to move on to the introduction. The introduction is excellent kind of background information because it sets the stage for the study by putting it in the context of other research that's already been done. So you're going to see that they're talking about obviously all the dev ed issues here and why it's so important for us to look at remediation and the, kind of all of the elements that are related to their particular study. So you want to get that background knowledge, and often this is, an easier section of the research study to read. So you kind of get a sense of what that is all about. Now, this particular study did ask, they did kind of break down the different sections, break this down into different sections. Hang on a moment, I just lost my space. Okay, so usually at the end of an introduction is where you would see the research question. So here you can see they're telling you what their study was focusing on, but they're giving you some more background knowledge about that first. So they're giving a much more comprehensive introduction in this particular article. And then what you'll see at the end here is they finally do get to the research questions. Again, oftentimes you're not going to see all of the subsets, and usually the research questions are in the introduction, not in the methods section. But what you want to get a sense of before you dive into the rest of the article is, what do the researchers want to know? So what are they investigating? And here they have actually spelled it out with research question 1, research question 2, 3, and 4. So you can see very clearly what they're looking to investigate in their study. Okay, so now once you know the research question, and this is very critical, I'm going to be looking to see if you have identified what the primary purpose and the question is in the article. And then the most important other finding, that I'm going to be looking for is, did you identify what they found around this? And then you'll be critiquing it by looking at the details of the process of how they got there. But what many people do when they're reading a research study is that they start at the intro, and then after they identify what the research questions are, they often skip down all the way to the bottom, the last section, which is going to be called the discussion. Okay, so here, the discussion. The discussion will come back to those questions and will also tuck in the research findings, which they talked about in the results section that we just skimmed past a moment ago. So what you want to do is read abstract, introduction, have a firm grasp of what the research questions are, then move on to the discussion, and now you want to see, what are they saying about the results of this study? Because what they're going to do is they're going to summarize their key findings and put it into the context again of the broader literature. So in this particular case, they actually did a fairly well organized way where they linked it right back. Here, our first question asked what students learn in intermediate algebra. And then it tells you about what the results are. And you'll see here, second question was, and then after they controlled for grades and they, accounted for all these different variables, here is what they found. And then, of course, as I said before, they're connecting it to other research to say whether this is a consistent finding in the literature, or is this an anomaly that seems to be very out of step with what else is happening. And then they have to provide some explanation or possible explanations of why that might be. So you'll see that this is a great way to read the article. Now, as a critical evaluator of the research, you certainly are going to want to look at what the limitations of the study are. There is no research out there that's going to be perfect, so you need to understand and carefully interpret the results within the parameters of how that research was conducted. So the authors have to lay out some of those limitations for you, so you want to make sure you take a few minutes to evaluate that. And then some of the research journals will ask, especially the practitioner-focused journals, will ask for the authors to identify how this matters in the world of practice. In some cases, that may not be as robust as it looks like it is here. It looks like they have a pretty robust section on that. So you may need to extrapolate and make some of your own thoughts, share some of your own thoughts on why this research may be of such importance. So now after you've read the abstract, the intro, and the discussion, you're going to go back and you're going to read the entire article now. This time you go back to the beginning. I like to reread the intro again when I'm reading the articles, because I want to make sure I have a deep understanding before I dive into how they conducted their study. And then you'll be looking for the section that's called method. And the method is going to provide you with some really important information about how the study was conducted. So in this particular research study, they wanted to provide some additional local context for you, so you understood, kind of the contextualized setting in which this happened. But the primary issues that you're going to see is that who participated and what did they have to do. So how was the study conducted? You'll get a sense, of the research methods that they use. Was this an experimental study? Was this a correlational study? Was this more of a case study? Providing more descriptive data versus, more, you can't say causal data unless it's experimental, which is not going to be very likely for you to see too often in the field. But sometimes they are able to pull off that type of research in higher ed. So if they can, that's great. So the idea here is that you'll spend some time understanding, well, who participated and how was the study conducted. This is very important because it sets up kind of the generalization of the study, how valuable the findings and the results will be, and also can bring your attention to, do I need to be a little bit, more reserved in how I'm identifying and talking about these results? Because let's just say that there was a study that was only on 10 people. Well, clearly you're not going to have as much confidence in that study as you would if the study had, maybe a few hundred students. So you'll want to get a sense of that. They'll tell you about the kinds of instruments and how they measured the variables that they were interested in measuring. So you'll get all of that information here, and they can sometimes provide the data analysis process here, although sometimes you'll see that in the results section. Now, the next important part is the results, because the results is actually the statistical analysis for the quantitative studies, and of course, if it's qualitative, then the qualitative findings would be posted here. But what you'll want to do is, kind of read the text, and for those of you who are stronger in math, you'll, certainly appreciate all the statistical language and charts and graphs. For those of you who are not feeling as confident in that area yet, you will develop those skills, we assure you. And as you progress through that, you'll gain confidence at being able to read the results. If you ever feel lost, go back to that discussion section again, and then come back here and try to see if you can piece it together using the context of the discussion. So here you'll see they give you all kind of the information. Oftentimes there'll be charts and graphs involved in here, tables, things of that nature. They'll let you know whether any of the findings were statistically significant. They'll often provide you with sometimes descriptive data about the students, as well as the statistical analysis data. So you'll want to take a look at that, and then when you're finished reading all of that information and reviewing the charts, then you revisit the discussion, and as you do this, you'll gain confidence at being able to understand all of the different elements of the study. So I hope this has provided you with some of the background that you'll need for this assignment. This is, kind of a heavier lift out of the different tasks that we're asking you to do this semester, but the stronger your skill set is in this space, the easier your dissertation process will be. So we want to get you, effective at not only looking for the research, which the librarians have helped with and provided a lot of tutorials on, and you can reach out to them for one-on-one support. You can call them, you can set up a meeting. They'll talk with you over the phone or via Zoom, things of that nature. So if you feel like you need some help and guidance at even maybe identifying the right search terms, or you're either getting too much or too little and need some guidance at making sure you're getting the right kind of information, they are an excellent resource to help you. But in addition to being able to find those, I also wanted to make sure that you're able to understand and evaluate. So you'll think about how important this information really is, what the limitations of the study are, what the value of the study is. Those are the pieces that I'm really hoping to see in your annotated bibliography, and of course in the research summaries of the 2 articles that you take a deeper dive and provide a lot more depth and context for. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I am certainly, more than happy to help you, and I think you'll enjoy this activity. You can get lost in the databases because there's so much fascinating research. So I hope that you enjoy it and it starts to, kind of inform you about what's happening in the problem of practice area that you identify. All right, take care.